Hello guys, welcome back to another video. So we just got some pretty massive Unreal Engine news because Unreal Engine 5.9 is officially in development, and this is actually pretty surprising because earlier this year Epic Games announced that Unreal Engine 5.8 would be the last planned major release of Unreal Engine 5 as the company begins shifting more of its development efforts towards Unreal Engine 6. However, Epic did leave the door open for one more update during their Unreal Engine 6 presentation. They specifically said, while we currently aren't planning another official UE5 release after 5.8, we're reserving the option to release a 5.9 if needed. You never know. And originally, this entire video was actually going to be talking about whether or not I thought Unreal Engine 5.9 would actually happen. And when I was preparing this video, Epic Games unironically basically answered the question for us. Yesterday at Unreal Fest Seoul, South Korea, Epic gave a new presentation discussing the future of Unreal Engine, and during that presentation, they revealed Unreal Engine 5.9 is currently under development. They also gave us our first indication of what they're actually planning for the update, with a couple of new features as well as new updates, with AI workflows being one of the major focuses of 5.9. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the Unreal Engine 5.9 announcement, what are all the new features included in this update, as well as what this means for the transition to Unreal Engine 6. And if you guys are new here to the channel, my name is Smart Polly. I make all sorts of Unreal Engine news and content. Now, before we continue, if you're trying to learn Unreal Engine 5 and actually build your own games, I want to quickly tell you about my Unreal Engine 5 courses, because one of the biggest problems with learning Unreal Engine is getting stuck watching hundreds of disconnected tutorials without ever knowing how everything actually comes together in a fully finished game. So that's exactly why I created these courses. Instead of just teaching individual Unreal Engine features, we actually build complete games from start to finish. If you're completely new, my UE5 Beginners course walks you through building 4 different games while learning blueprints, user interface, AI, animation, weapons, game mechanics, and all the fundamentals you'll need to start creating games on your own. Then when you're ready to move up to more advanced development, you can learn how to build a complete multiplayer survival game with systems like multiplayer inventory, crafting, harvesting, base building, a open world map, and so much more. But if you're serious about learning Unreal Engine, the best value is my Unreal Engine 5 Masterclass bundle. It gives you access to all my courses and completed project files for one single price, so you can start with the fundamentals and work your way towards building much more advanced games. You can check out the UE5 Masterclass bundle and all of my courses using the link in the description below. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right back to the video. So first, let's talk about what Epic just revealed about Unreal Engine 5.9, because this was actually a much bigger announcement than I initially realized. Until now, Unreal Engine 5.9 wasn't officially in development. Epic's previous position was that Unreal Engine 5.8 would be the final planned major release of UE5, although they specifically reserved an option to release a 5.9 if needed. But during Unreal Fest Seoul 2026, that officially changed. Around 35 minutes into the presentation, Epic confirmed that 5.9 is currently under development, and they actually gave us a pretty good idea of what they're working on for the update. One of the big focuses appears to be AI workflows inside of Unreal Engine. First, Epic said that they were going to continue expanding the Unreal Engine MCP plugin, which was introduced in Unreal Engine 5.8. Essentially, they're updating the MCP plugin, giving AI models access to more skills and functionality inside of the engine. So the MCP integration that we currently have in Unreal Engine 5.8 really is just the beginning. In 5.9, AI agents should be able to interact with and control even more parts of the engine. Epic also talked about updates for the Epic Developer Assistant, which is basically like their own free built-in AI assistant for Unreal Engine development. In 5.9, they're actually working on giving it better understanding of your actual project context. They're also going to be adding the ability to capture and understand screenshots, and also the ability to directly link to relevant Unreal Engine documentation. So it sounds like they're improving the Epic Developer Assistant, adding a lot of features that the community requests. Hopefully it can also read things like blueprints and look through your project context. It kind of sounds like what they're adding in 5.9. Another feature they're improving on is semantic search. So instead of having to remember the exact same name of an asset inside of your project, semantic search uses AI to understand what you're actually looking for. So you can search on something based on a description or based on its meaning, and Unreal Engine will find the relevant assets for you. But probably one of the most interesting things that they showed us was their continued work with generative image and video models. They kind of already touched about this in Unreal Fest Chicago. Basic idea is that Unreal Engine can provide information of your actual 3D scene, things like the camera, the scene layout, the block out, all the rendering data, and then you can use that information to guide an external diffusion model. So rather than simply typing a text prompt into an image generator, hoping that it produces what you want, you can use Unreal Engine itself to effectively guide AI generation. Epic describes the diffusion model as some sort of render pass. Basically, it doesn't replace Unreal Engine's existing rendering pipeline, but it could give artists another way to generate highly detailed or stylized offline renders based directly on their Unreal Engine scenes. And you can see here on this example that they showed at the presentation, using the model to basically generate the snow on the cars, the road, all that stuff. And on top of all that, they also mention a expanded mobile platform support as part of their plans. So it looks like 5.9 is starting to be more than just a small maintenance update. Also, we still don't have a official release date for 5.9, and obviously some of these features are still actively being developed, but I think we can probably speculate that it could be released sometime towards November or December if we look at, previous releases in the past. So 5.9 is officially confirmed, and AI is going to be one of the major focuses of the release. But when we actually look at some of the features in 5.8 that are still experimental, even beta, it makes a lot more sense why Epic is deciding they weren't quite finished with Unreal Engine 5 yet. Because if you look through 5.8, there's surprisingly a lot of plugins that are labeled as experimental and beta. For example, things like the procedural vegetation editor is still experimental. We have incremental cooking, mocap manager, lumen light. These are all many different systems, and there's plenty of others that are still not production ready. And there's a bunch of other different features that are currently in beta. And with those specific labels, Epic has said that experimental features aren't recommended in shipping projects. So hopefully with 5.9, now that 5.9 is actually happening, I'm hoping that Epic uses this opportunity to create essentially the definite stable version of Unreal Engine 5. Obviously continuing to add AI features like we just talked about, but I hope they spend a lot of time on bug fixes, stability, performance, and optimization. More importantly, starting to take some of these technologies that we've been sitting on in experimental or beta and move them towards production ready state. Because Unreal Engine 6 is going to introduce some pretty massive architectural changes, and not every developer is immediately going to move their project over to UE6 or even want to use UE6. So I'm really hoping to see Epic leave Unreal Engine 5 in a state where developers can finally have one mature, extremely stable version of the engine to comfortably build games for the next few years. And interestingly enough, Epic has actually done this very similar transition in the past with the transition from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5. Basically, when Epic released Unreal Engine 5 in early access back in 2021, they didn't immediately abandon Unreal Engine 4. Instead, they released Unreal Engine 4.27 in August of that same year, which ended up becoming the final major release of UE4. And 4.27 wasn't just a small update filled with bug fixes. They continued to improve on technology, moving features like pixel streaming and OpenXR into production ready. They improved GPU light mass and added virtual production improvements, and they continued preparing the engine for developers who weren't ready to immediately jump over to UE5. More importantly, Epic specifically designed the final version of UE4 release with the transition to UE5 in mind. Projects created in 4.27 could be carried over and converted over to Unreal Engine 5, giving developers one final mature version of UE4 to work with while the next generation of the engine continued developing. And Unreal Engine 5.9 obviously can take a more similar approach. They could give developers one stable final version of Unreal Engine 5 and a solid foundation for developers who aren't planning on immediately moving to Unreal Engine 6. So overall, I'm actually pretty happy to hear that Unreal Engine 5.9 is in the works. Personally, I'm in no rush to abandon UE5 for my own projects, tutorials, courses. I'll probably continue using UE5 for quite a while, especially if 5.9 ends up becoming a more polished, stable version of the engine that I'm hoping for. Also, with some of the new AI features like better MCP integration, the Epic Developer Assistant, semantic search, it could make 5.9 a much more significant update than we originally expected. But more than anything, I hope that Epic uses this release as an opportunity to finally finish Unreal Engine 5, bug fixes, improve performance, and move some of these experimental and beta features towards production ready. But let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments down below. Are you excited for Unreal Engine 5.9 happening? And what do you want Epic to focus on before they make the final move to Unreal Engine 6? Also, if you're interested in learning Unreal Engine and actually building your own games, make sure to check out my Unreal Engine courses, link in the description below. And of course, subscribe to the channel because I'm covering all of these Unreal Engine updates as soon as they come out, keeping you up to date with the latest Unreal Engine news and content. But anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.